Flags can, and often do, bring a country together. In times of crisis, a country that can look to its flag flying high over the landscape and realize that the country will continue to exist. People who have never met before can feel a sense of togetherness toward one another because they are both citizens of the same nation and fly the same flag. The Burma Road Banksia, or Banksia scabrella, is a species of woody shrub of the genus Banksia. It belongs to the Abiatinae series, which includes numerous shrubs with small, round, or oval inflorescence. It's found in a few isolated populations south of Geraldton, Western Australia, the largest of which is south and east of Mount Adams. The Bermuda Triangle is a mythical section of the Atlantic Ocean, roughly bounded by Miami, Bermuda, and Puerto Rico, where dozens of ships and airplanes have disappeared. Unexplained circumstances surround some of these accidents, including one in which the pilots of a squadron of U.S. Navy bombers became disoriented while flying over the area. The planes were never found. Global warming is defined as an increase in the average temperature of the Earth's atmosphere. This trend began in the middle of the 20th century and is one of the major environmental concerns of scientists and governmental officials worldwide. The changes in temperature result mostly from the effect of increased concentrations of greenhouse gases in the atmosphere. Modern buildings have to achieve certain performance requirements, at least, to satisfy those of building codes to provide a safe, healthy, and comfortable environment. However, these conditioned environments demand resources in energy and materials, which are both limited in supply to build and operate. The border itself between Mexico and United States is fraught with a mix of urban and desert terrain and spans over 1,900 miles. Both the uninhabited areas of the border and urban areas are where the most drug trafficking and illegal crossings take place. Crime is prevalent in urban cities like El Paso, Texas, and San Diego, California. Researchers think that long-distance flyers, such as the American golden plover and the white-rumped sandpiper, picked up the spores while lining their nests. Then when the birds arrive in new places, they molt, leaving behind the feathers and their precious cargo, to start growing again at the other end of the world. Moods may also have an effect on how information is processed, by influencing the extent to which judges rely on pre-existing internal information or focus on new, external information. Positive moods promote more holistic and top-down processing style, while negative moods recruit more stimulus-driven and bottom-up processing. The brain is divided into two hemispheres, called the left and the right hemispheres. Each hemisphere provides a different set of functions, behaviors, and controls. The right hemisphere is often called the creative side of the brain, while the left hemisphere is the logical or analytic side of the brain. The right hemisphere controls the left side of the body, and the left hemisphere controls the right side. Introvert, or those of us with introverted tendencies, tends to recharge by spending time alone. They lose energy from being around people for long periods of time, particularly large crowds. Extroverts, on the other hand, gain energy from other people. Extroverts actually find their energy is sapped when they spend too much time alone. They recharge by being social. Within Wellness Yak's paradigm of care, there would still be a place for use of medications that help people feel differently, at least for a time, sedatives, tranquilizers, and so forth. And you would still want to fund science that seeks to better understand the many pathways to debilitating mood states and to psychosis. And yes, whatever biological vulnerabilities that may be present. Six decades after the British novelist and chemist C.P. Snow famously decried the gulf of mutual incomprehension between the sciences and the humanities, the chasm often seems larger than ever. Science has grown more technically demanding over the years, even as the shared public experience of art and culture has fragmented.
The history of software is of course very, very new. And the whole IT industry is really only 67 years old, which is extraordinary, and to be so close to the birth of a major new technology, a major new discipline, is quite remarkable given where we got to in those 67 years. And the progression has been not so much a progression as a stampede, because Moore's law, the rapid expansion in the power of computing and the rapid fall of the cost of computing and storage and communications, has made it feasible for information technology to move into all sorts of areas of life that were never originally envisaged. What has happened is that there has been, as I said, a stampede for people to pick the low-hanging fruit. And that is what's guided the development of software and information technology over the past decades, and continues to do so, with a number of consequences that we will explore. About interval training. You work out in a way that alternates periods of high-intensity exercise with periods of low-intensity recovery, which means you do the exercise at 20-meter speed, and then at 30-meter speed. Interval training has been often used for athletes and their sports. It can also accelerate cardio and aerobic exercises. To be a successful entrepreneur, you should have good ideas, but the definition of a good idea varies depending on whom you ask. A great idea should have several features. Firstly, the great idea should be various and novel. Secondly, the great idea should be unique, which means no one has thought about it. Thirdly, it is essential for great ideas to be transformative and productive. All ideas are essentially a combination of other smaller ideas, but this doesn't mean they can't be unique. Merely page 168 of 492. Practice PTE with AI, scoring a puny PTE monthly priority materials at www.apuny.com. Copying doesn't make anything idiosyncratic, it's the individuality that one puts in which makes a concept stand out. Constant innovation leaves no room for stagnation and thus adds on to the basic idea, effectively making it unique. Unique ideas are inspired by basic things, they are simply extensions of pre-existing notions. And an idea or a concept is unique only when it transcends its predecessor and serves its purpose in a better and more precise way. A business doesn't want to make a loss. What does it want to make? A business doesn't want to make a loss. What does it want to make? Profit. What would call a doctor who sells prescribed medicines? What would call a doctor who sells prescribed medicines? Pharmacist, chemist. What is the legal document protecting someone's intellectual property? What is the legal document protecting someone's intellectual property? Patent. Animals with white ivory and long trunk? Animals with white ivory and long trunk? Elephant. How many quarters in a calendar year? How many quarters in a calendar year? 4. How many days are there in a fortnight? How many days are there in a fortnight? 14. How many days are there in a week? 7. How many days are there in a week? 7. What is the ceremony where two people get married? What is the ceremony where two people get married? Wedding. How many years are there in the passage of a decade? How many years are there in the passage of a decade? 10. How many years are there in a millennium? How many years are there in a millennium? 1,000. How many years does a centennial celebrate? How many years does a centennial celebrate? 100. How many years does it take to finish an undergraduate study? How many years does it take to finish an undergraduate study? 3 or 4 years. How would you call people who study ancient bones, rocks and plants? How would you call people who study ancient bones, rocks and plants? Archaeologist. How would you describe an economy that is largely based on farming? How would you describe an economy that is largely based on farming? Agricultural. What is the document does a student get when he completes his study at university? What is the document does a student get when he completes his study at university? Graduation certificate.